Anyway, um, so my name is Brian Whitmer. I'm the founder of CoughDrop, and my background is in computer science. I'm a programmer by trade. My research in graduate school was on human-computer interaction, or the science of how people interface with technology, how to make it easier and more understandable and more approachable. So out of grad school, I started a company called Instructure, and we built Canvas, which is a learning system. It's a learning management system that the schools and universities and school districts use to track grades and let students turn in homework, post discussion boards, lectures, and things like that. And that company grew to be very big and very successful. There's over 15 million users of the system. And it got to the point where I didn't need to be as involved day to day anymore. So as I started looking at what I wanted to do next and what opportunities I thought were out there, about the same time, my oldest daughter, who's now 9 years old, she has Rett syndrome. So she's nonverbal. She has poor motor control. She's in a wheelchair, and those are a couple strikes against interaction in general. And we've always known that technology was going to be an important part of her communication strategy. And so as we finally took the hint and realized just how much she wanted to express herself a couple years ago, we started looking at all the apps and devices and tools that were out there for communication. Took a couple crash courses on AAC and tried to understand what really was out there. And I really felt like from a technology and a usability perspective, there was a lot of room for improvement. There's a lot of apps and devices that are out there, and they do some great things, and they change people's lives in very significant ways. But I really felt like, just from my background and my experience, there were things that we weren't taking advantage of on the technology side that could really move the needle. So I started reaching out to speech paths and OTs, occupational therapists, and assistive technology specialists at school districts around the country. And I'd say, tell me about AAC. What are your experiences? What have you done in the past for augmentative communication? What have you liked? What have you hated? What apps have you tried? And what apps do you wish were better? And then I'd show them some of my ideas for ways I thought we could do things differently, and then we talk about it. I'd ask for feedback, ask for suggestions, and we sort of work together. So with a group of about 30 experts from around the country, I developed what has become the CoughDrop app. So that's my background. That's how I got involved in all this.
Yeah, and then I'm the other guy there. I actually also got involved with it as a parent. Um, and I know we've got some parents in this meeting, and we've got some school and some professionals and things. So we both come to it as from the parent side, which is a little unique in the AAC world. But several years ago, our school district actually had an iPad initiative where they gave us all iPads, but they weren't. They didn't understand AAC a whole lot, so they just told me to go buy one and hope it worked. And they said told me one that most of the people use in the district, so I went and purchased it. And I was very confused when I downloaded it, and I was not working with a speech path at the time. Um, so that's one of the things I would recommend if you are a parent, is to make sure you're working with a speech path. But what I did was I went in and deleted all the pictures and just put in pictures of his foods and his family and things like that, and started from there. And it worked well. It cut down on a lot of tantrums and things because he could start to tell us what he wanted. Um, but one of the issues that we had was whenever he gets really happy and excited, he throws his iPad around. It's kind of the opposite of a lot of the kiddos out there, where they usually get mad and throw them. He does it when he gets happy, and he broke his iPad, and he basically lost the ability to communicate with us. And it was frustrating to me. My background is also with technology. I've worked with several cloud companies. I come from CenturyLink and Google and things, and so it was frustrating to me that these things were not in the cloud. That I couldn't just log into my Android phone or my wife's Kindle or a laptop, things like that. And I felt that it would be much easier if it didn't matter what type of device you used. And that's where my frustration came in. So I started to look and see what was out there. And that's where I found that Brian was already putting CoughDrop together, and that he was utilizing the cloud. And we'll get into why that's important in a bit. but it made all the difference in the world to me when I started to use it, in that it didn't matter. We're a cross-platform family here. We've got basically devices of every type here, and it was great for me to be able to use it on any device. Um, so I come to it, like I said, as a parent, as an early user. We liked it so much that here I am. I joined the company. So that's our story. But one of the things Brian mentioned was, because he's not a professional, he worked with several different, about 30 different professionals throughout the world to say, what's some of the struggles you're having? What would you like to see? And Brian, if you want to go over what your conversation was.
Yeah, so as I talked to people and tried to understand what the real pain points were, there were a lot of things that I understood, and there were a lot of straightforward things. But the biggest two issues that came up over and over again, one was just the device centeredness of everything. When we have a communication strategy, the vocabulary is on the device. We think about it as the same as the device, and so if that device breaks, then unless we've done a backup recently, we've lost everything. It's hard to get it off of that device. It's hard to make changes without taking the device away. Just lots of frustrations around the fact that everything was so locked onto a single device. And then the other big concern, people would say, look, this isn't so much about technology, just this is an issue that we have. We need to figure out a way to get the support team around the communicator more involved. Because it's not balanced. Maybe there's a therapist, a speech therapist who's really involved and working hard, and nothing's happening in the classroom, or maybe the parents are trying, but they're kind of on their own. And if we can just get more consistency for the whole support team, whether that's caregivers or aides or teachers or therapists, everyone on the same page, that would make so much of a difference. And as we talked to people, I realized that there was actually opportunities with technology to address both of those problems. So as we walk through some of CoughDrop's features and functionality, you'll see that these are some things we've tried to spend a lot of time and attention on, trying to help get things beyond just isolated on a single device, and then also coordinating and supporting the team around the communicator.
Yeah. So why don't we just jump into the actual tool? See if we can make this bigger. Still sharing my entire screen, right?
Yep.
Okay. So when you first sign up for a CoughDrop account, we actually give a 2 month free trial to anyone, because what we don't want is somebody that's first searching out AAC to go out and purchase an app that's not going to work for them. So when you first log in, what you're going to be able to see, this one is a different view than a regular communicator. This one actually is somebody who works with several different people. So I can actually see all of my clients that I'm working with. But if you are a parent and if you just have the one account, it's going to come up into whatever their speech boards that you've picked. But what we've done, because we're not we shouldn't be the speech professionals, is we had several different professionals make different templates of boards that you may want to start with. And so we have some that are very small core boards, to get someone started, or there's other people out there that like to start with very large, robust core boards. So this one is one that is meant to have as many words as you can within one or two button pushes. Um, it's going to work similar to others that you've seen out there. If you click on a word without a mic or without the envelope, it's going to say the word. Am. Whereas if you click one with a envelope in it, it's going to go into more categories.
So we're showing you this walkthrough. You're seeing it on a a web browser, one of the nice things about CoughDrop is we've built it to be cloud-based. So the interface is actually consistent no matter what you're loading it on. So you can go to the website, mycoughdrop.com, and you can pull up your boards that you're going to use or that you're looking at. But you can also install the app on an Android tablet or an iPad or an iPhone or whatever device you've got. And pull up these exact same boards, and it'll look the same regardless of where you're at. On the web browsers, it's the voice that you're hearing is the one that's built into the system. On the mobile devices, when you install the app, then paid users can install a bunch of additional voices as well if you're familiar with the acapella voices. So there's a lot of flexibility, but one of the biggest things about CoughDrop is that since it's cloud-based, everything can run on whatever device you need. So if a device breaks, if you're using an iPad and it breaks, it's no big deal. You just grab a new device. Maybe temporarily you're grabbing a phone and you log in, and you can pull up those same boards on that device and use that until you get a new iPad, or if you're switching to an Android tablet, the interface and the interaction will be consistent for the communicator regardless of what device they're on.
Yeah, what's great about that, as I said with my son, I actually started him with foods and things, so it looks different than those that started with core words. We added mine on later, but what's nice about this is if you get this if you're a lending library, or if you're doing evals and somebody's trying to get a device, you can actually set them up with one of your lending iPads or a Kindle or whatever, and have them start with this. Then when their device comes, if it's 2 months later, 3 months later, they can actually just log into that device and have their exact same boards that you've already been using with them for 2 or 3 months. Nothing's lost. And so you don't have to recreate it every single time. If a device breaks, you don't have to go in and reprogram it every single time. As you can see here, this is my son's food. He didn't really understand, because he has so many different types of crackers and things that he eats. One picture of cracker didn't really work, so we actually went in and put pictures of all of the crackers that he eats and the other foods. His entire diet is basically crunchy carbs with occasional little bit of fruit.
So it's really easy with CoughDrop. You can take one of the robust vocabulary that's already built, and you can just use one of those. Like Scott was showing, there's different sizes of buttons and different layouts. You can start from scratch. So if you want to recreate what you have somewhere else, or if you just want to start with something new, that's fine. And you can also take these templates that have been built, and you can make your own copy and then tweak them as much as you need to. So there's lots of flexibility in how you set up your boards. We don't say, this core based with 60 buttons is what's best for everybody, or category based is what's best for the situation. We say work with a therapist or with an expert to build the vocabulary, and we will support whatever you put together.
Yeah, so back where the templates were, if you find one that you actually like, you can just make a copy of it and start using it from there. So we're trying to make it so that you're not having to recreate things over and over again. If you are doing a lot of evals with clients and you don't have a board here that you like, you can create one, save it, and then just use that with each new client. Even if you sign them up under with a new account, you can actually share those boards with that client. So back to this, if I like this and I think, I'm going to actually start using this with one of my other clients, there's a share button right here where you can share that with their username. For those of you that are teaching a class, if you have several different users that are using AAC, if they're using CoughDrop, you can create a board once and just sync it to each of their devices, so you're not having to go back in and recreate it.
And then since it's in the cloud, if you make any changes, it'll automatically update for everyone that's linked to it all at once. Yeah. CoughDrop doesn't have to have an internet connection all the time, so it downloads everything so it'll work offline. whenever you don't have an internet connection. But then when it does connect to the internet, then it'll download any changes that have happened, and that's when all the updates can happen.
Yeah. Um, what was important to me as a parent was each time my son's teacher was adding new boards or making changes, she would say, "Well, can you please leave his device with me overnight so I can make these changes?" And what she's asking you to do is basically say, "Can you leave his voice with me overnight? Good luck tonight. Um, so sorry about the tantrums, but I need to update his boards." Whereas now, if she wants to go in and make changes or add some boards and things like that, she can be going to it from her laptop and adding to his activity schedule or whatever she wants to do from her laptop while he's riding home on the bus. When he gets near Wi-Fi again, it's just going to sync all of those changes to his device, and she won't have ever taken it away. And it doesn't matter what device he has. This also makes it very nice for us as parents because we know he's going to have a stronger learning experience if we can model with him. But because I've got an Android and my wife has a Kindle and he has an iPad, we couldn't do that in the past. Whereas now we just log in and his exact same boards show up on whatever device we have. Um,
So there's a question real quick. It says, when you share a board, can the people who share it with edit it as well, or will they have to make a copy? There's two different kinds of sharing. So you can share and just say you can read, you can look at this, but if you want to change it, you'll have to make your own copy. Or you can say, let's collaborate on this board. So if you're sharing it with another therapist or somebody else, then you can just say, all right, now we can both make changes to it, and it won't be separate copies. It'll be the same copy.
yeah. Yeah, great question. It's similar to Google Docs, whereas if I create a doc, I can decide if somebody wants to, if I want them to have editing privilege or just looking at it. And my chat disappeared, so you'll just have to keep track of when we have questions.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
There's another question: is CoughDrop available in other languages? CoughDrop supports different languages, so you can build boards in whatever language you want, and the mobile apps have voices for a number of different languages. You can go in and look at the premium voices and see which languages are supported. We have not built boards in languages other than English at this point, so you can build them yourself, but we don't have any that are pre-built at this point. It's something we want to work on, and like we said before, there's a community of collaborators that are always building resources and additional boards, and we would love, if you wanted to create something and share it back with the community, we would be very appreciative, of course.
Yeah. So when you create a board, it's defaulted as private, but if it's one that you think others might like, you can make it public, and then anybody else that's a CoughDrop user can go in and use that. So we have a large community of teachers that say, I'm going to make a board about the holidays. Well, you can go and see if somebody else has already done that and search for it. Say, oh look, it's been made already. And if you like this board, or if you think that's a good place to start, you can just make a copy of it. And because people are continuing to add boards and leave them open, there may not be one now, but if you check back in a couple months, somebody else may have made one already for you. So it makes it nice. Now this side over here has to do with more the professionals, but if you have several people on your caseload, you can actually see you can see a dashboard of all of your students that you're working with or all of your clients, which is important because if you're only seeing them every couple of weeks, you're not going to remember what each person's boards look like because each person's going to have their own words. So if you're in and you're working with my son, teaching him how to, uh, request food and things, but then your time is up and you're moving to a different communicator, all you have to do as their supervisor is switch communicators and say, now I'm going to work with student number 2, and her board's going to come up. exactly whatever it is that she's working with, and you're still able to model with her exact boards from your device, and so you're not having to take their device away to have to model with them.
So there's a couple other questions. The first one, can you add sound or music, or is it text to speech only? You can record audio, or you can upload sounds to have it play on the devices. You can also have them linked to videos, so you can have it pop up a YouTube video and play back for them, which is nice for entertainment, but also for video modeling and self-modeling to be able to have some reinforcement from triggered from buttons. And the other question that Nick has about saving language samples. So if you look here on the dashboard, like Scott was saying before, there's sort of two user types. There's communicators, and if you're a communicator, when you open up the app, it'll take you right to your boards in speak mode, and you can communicate and use it to speak. But if you're what we call a supervisor, which is a therapist or a teacher or a parent or caregiver, whoever is linked to a communicator's account, and that's the idea of how it works. Every communicator can add supervisors to their account, and then they're linked up. And so if you're a supervisor, then when you come here and log in, you'll see this dashboard. And one of the things, we talked about the left side and the right side. In the middle is some updates of things that are going on. So you can see under notifications right here, you can see the changes that have been made to some of the boards that Scott is connected to. And you can also see sessions, which is a log of the usage of some of the communicators all the communicators that he's working with. So CoughDrop by default does not record communication sessions, but if you turn on logging, then that's actually one of the big benefits of the CoughDrop app is some of the data and reports that come as a result of turning on logging.
Yeah, great questions. In fact, let's go into some of the reports. I was going to show you if there are a lot of people that like to start with the very large, the large robust language, and they can go in and hide several of those buttons and start with one or two, but save all the spaces. We can show that in a bit. I just didn't want to forget before I jump into the reports. But this is one of the other things that was asked of us was, if it's in the cloud, can we pull up data? Can we pull up usage reports? And yes, you can. You don't even have to have the device to do it. As long as you've been assigned as a supervisor to your students or your clients, you can go in and pull up all of these things. What's great about this is not only something just popped up. Which web browser works best? It depends on the device, I believe. Is that right, Brian?
Yeah, so when you're on mobile devices, the app's the best, but it's Chrome on Android and Safari for iOS are the default ones. We do most of our development in Chrome, and that tends to be the easiest to work with. But it should work just fine in Firefox or Safari. And Internet Explorer and Edge it's a little bit harder to get it to work, but if that's all you've got, then it'll work just fine. It's just sometimes the text to speech isn't as reliable.
Yeah, I've even used it in I don't remember what the Kindle one is called, but I've used it in their default one, and it's worked great. So here's some of the different usage reports that you can pull up, words per utterance, words per minute, things like that. But what's great about it is you can actually pull up from 6 months ago compared to now and be able to watch the growth of that. You can actually look at their most used words. You can pull up a word cloud of their most used words, which is great for if you're trying to get, say, mom and dad on board, and right now they think that it is only used for asking for foods. If you can actually go in and say, no, they ask for so much more when they're in sessions with us. Look at this. This is my son's. Apparently grandma's a lot more popular than the rest of us. Mom's in here pretty big. You can see dad doesn't. Apparently, I found me. Woo. Toilet's even bigger than me though. But what's great about it is you can actually give this to the parents and say, look, we're actually using a lot more words than you think they are. And this makes mom and dad want to be able to use a little bit more at home. Or if you are mom and dad and you don't think it's being used at school, you can start to show this to the teacher, saying, "Look, these kiddos actually, or these clients know a lot more than you think they do," and you can actually pull it up by part of speech. As I mentioned with my son, we started like 100% nouns because we didn't understand the core words, so we slowly added in verbs and adverbs and things. But it's fun to watch that grow over time, and you can pull it up, um, and watch that grow. And then one of the most highly requested of the reports is the time of day, because we've heard it from all sides. As a parent, there was one teacher that I didn't think was ever using it. Some of the teachers say I don't think it's being used at home. Some of the speech paths say I don't, it's only being used in my sessions. Even the school ones, the school speech paths are saying sometimes I would go into class and ask where their device was, and the teacher had it locked up. Well, that's locking up the kiddo's voice, their ability to communicate. Um, and this is not a tool that's just given to one person. Every single person that is a supporter of the communicator sees these exact same things. Which me as a parent, I know if the teachers are looking at it, and the speech path and the OT are all looking at it, it's going to make me try a little bit harder to work with my son the whole day.
This is one of the examples of, when we talked about trying to build tools to get the team around the communicator more engaged. This is one of the pieces of that, is trying to help the caregivers and supporters and therapists know what's going on, have some data, and see what's happening for communication, and also have a little bit of accountability, so that everybody knows that everybody else is aware. And hopefully when we say, all right, this month we're going to work on X, everybody knows, and then we can see if we're actually working on it, and we can see what progress is being made. It's so much more empowering when you know what's happening. It's really hard, I as a parent, we send our daughter off to school and she comes back home, and the only way, with the device that she's used before CoughDrop, to know what's going to happen at school is if I get a note from somebody, or I can check the battery and see how dead it is and say, oh, you must have used it a lot today because the battery's almost dead. Instead, if we can have this kind of information, we can see what's happening, and we can do a better job of reinforcing each other. So when new words show up and we have new communication happening, we can say, "Oh, great! You said cookie today. Let's talk about cookies. Let's see if we can get another opportunity to use that word and get some reinforcement across contexts. Or let's look for ways that we can try to improve the frequency of communication over time." But having the information and having a little bit of accountability is a really important part of getting the communication team around the communicator more engaged. Because at the end of the day, which app we pick as far as AAC, which how curved the buttons are and how dark the colors are, is probably not as important as how strong the team is around the communicator, how much we're reinforcing and supporting and assuring the individual that we respect their communication, that we appreciate it, and that we think it's valid. And so if we can find ways to get the team engaged and involved, that's going to be so much more important. There's a messaging piece to CoughDrop as well, where we can post messages to one another and stay in sync. But that's what this data and these reports are about. There's even a report at the bottom that Scott was just showing, that it's called the heat map, where you can see where on the screen they're hitting, so you can get an idea if they're not crossing midline, or if there's a region that they can't see. Maybe there's a wheelchair mount or something in the way. That data can be really valuable, but giving it to everybody so that we know what's going on can be really important and effective. There was a question about using the account on multiple devices. Yeah, you can use it on as many devices as you want. We'll have some people that will leave an iPad at school because that's what school gives them, and for whatever reason they don't want them to take it home, and they just use an Android tablet at home. And since it's in the cloud, everything's automatically kept in sync, and we don't have to worry about downloading and re-uploading or copying to a jump drive or anything like that.
Yeah, I think Brian mentioned, but it does not need to be used online, or it doesn't have to be online at all times. Just if you make changes, edits, you need to get it online so that it can sync those changes to whatever device you're on. Okay, so he talked about logs and messages. You can go in and look and see. My son was stimming on this one and trying to learn new words. Um, but you can go in and leave a note for everybody in the team, as he mentioned, uh, saying, hey, they used these words today. Please try it at home. Please continue to work with them and build that experience with them. And it goes out to everybody that's been assigned as a supervisor. So for a communicator like my son, when he first gets onto his iPad, every time it just comes straight into these boards, and he's very good at getting around. But if he adds, let me go into, he can add people that are called supervisors. So you can't go in from your account and add yourself as a supervisor to somebody else because of HIPAA privacy reasons. It needs to be done from the communicator's account. But if he moves on with gets another teacher or another aide, I can just add them as a supervisor. And the account, the communicator account, is the one that's paid for. All of these other people get free logins. So I guess while we're here, that's we've got two different costs that you can pay for an account. It's either $200 for a 5-year account, or it's $6 a month. So some of the times we'll have stroke victims and things that are trying to get back their speech, and they may not need it for more than 6 months, and they may want to do a monthly. But if most of the organizations and things that purchase it will usually go with the long term purchase and not really a month to month. But all of these people, we don't limit how many supervisors you can add to the communicator's account. We think the more supervisors that you can use, if you can add grandma and grandpa and mom and dad or whatever, and they can model with you, it's going to be that stronger experience.
There's two types of supervisors. There's editing supervisors and read-only supervisors. So you can add people to the communicator's account so that they can see the reports and they can see messages and things without allowing them to go make changes to that individual's boards. Or they can be edit supervisors, and then they can then change buttons and move things around. That way you don't have too many people stepping on each other's toes. Also, we keep a history of all the changes that have happened to the boards, so if there's ever anything that messes up, we can actually go back and revert any changes that have happened as well.
Yeah.
So those are some of the highlights of CoughDrop. You know, we talked about how it's cloud-based, some of the opportunities that gives you to be able to run on multiple devices, not have to take the device away. We talked about some of the reports and the information that's available to the support team around the communicator so that everyone can be informed and engaged. At the end of the day, these are some of the big differences that really make CoughDrop valuable. Is that we can get in and not just have a single communication device, but essentially now have a communication strategy, and that can run across as many individuals as we need it to, as many devices as we need it to, and we can extend and work on the vocabulary and the usage over time, and we can see what's working and what isn't working and where we need to focus our energies. So it is a communication app, but it's also a lot more than that because it's about coordinating the communication team. That's why we call it team-based AAC. And we feel like it makes a huge difference. Like Scott said before, there's a 2-month trial that anybody can sign up for and try it out. That's not a limited trial. The only thing that's not available in the trial is picking voices, and that's just because we have to pay for them. But once you've paid, then you have access to the premium voices. But everything else is fully functional and available so that you can see if it's going to work for you. And then from there, you can go forward and use it. But if not, then you're not out anything. I see one question from Nick about the symbols that are used. There's a couple different symbol sets that are available inside of the app. The one you see most often is called AAC. It's a free. All the symbols that are available in CoughDrop are free and open licensed, so you don't have to worry about copyright issues or anything like that. We take care of attribution for you. But there's a high contrast symbol set. There's more of a the cartoon style symbol set, and then there's just some iconographic symbols as well that are all available. But if you have a Symbol Sticks license or a PCS license or whatever license you've got, if you have the images, you can always upload those into the boards and use those as well. It's really easy to just drag and drop them, we'll show you in a minute how you can just pull in images from other resources as well.
Yeah. If there's no other questions, why don't we do that? Let me show you how to create a board. And it's right there underneath the boards, or you can get to it from here, create a board. But so you can go in and so let's say I want to work with my client or my kid. He really likes sports, or we're going to have a lesson about sports, so I'm going to create a board for them. You can go in and make it as big as you want. For me, everything is a lot easier to create on my laptop, and then I just sync it to my son's device. I've created boards on my phone before. It's just not as easy. But so I go in and pick how many pictures we want. I'm going to go with 8. And just go in and create the board. So let's say we're going to talk about different sports.
So as you can see, it's automatically pulling up images, and it's also coloring the buttons. It uses Fitzgerald key by default, so these are nouns, but you can always change the colors, change the style. There's a number of different images that are usually available for common words. So if you don't like a picture that you see, you can always click on it or tap on it and search for the other images that are available. So you can see what's there. You can take a picture with your webcam that's connected to the device. You can upload an image if you have something on your computer. And you can also just find images from the web.
Yeah, so if you want an actual picture of a football, you can just go into the Google Images and say, oh, you know what, I like this one a lot better. And so I just right click on it, copy the image address, and then go back to my board and just paste it into there. So I don't have to, and it automatically puts it in there. That means I don't have to go in and find whatever I wanted to use, download it to my device, and then go in and upload it to CoughDrop. You can skip a lot of those steps. If you're doing family members and things like that, and you just want to take pictures directly from your device, you can do that.
This is where you can also, as you're working with boards, like Scott was saying a little while ago, if you've created a vocabulary and this is where you want to get eventually, but for now, maybe we just want to have a couple buttons. Then using that painting button that we can use to pick colors for things, you can also hide buttons. So you can say, let's go ahead and turn off some of these buttons for now. We'll save their spot so that we can remember where they are. But then when we hit save, they're not there. So they're not part of the visible board until they're re-enabled. That way you can have a robust vocabulary that you can sort of grow into over time. You don't have to worry about adding rows and columns after the fact, which you can also do. There was a question around copyright of images. If you're pulling in images from the web, you can actually specify the copyright when you upload the image to our system, or as long as you're keeping the images private, if you make the board private, as long as the board stays private, you should be fine because it's for a private purpose. If you're making the board public, then I would definitely pay attention to the copyright of any images that you pull in and make sure you set that up.
Yeah. One of the questions earlier was, let's see, gotta be done with paint, was about adding sounds. This is where you do it is from the same, instead of pictures, you can go in and press sound. And if you have a client that's verbal somewhat, you can start to use their voices, record their voices for each of the sounds. If you have a client that has ALS and is going to be losing their speech, you can do the same thing. Have them go in and record it for each of the pictures, so that it will be there when their speech is no longer there. This is where you can also decide whether the button speaks the word or if it opens up into another board. So you can make a subboard under there, or you can have it go into or launch a video. If you have a client that has videos that they like to watch on YouTube, things like that, you can put them in there. But so if I'm a teacher and I'm going to say next week's lesson is about sports, I go in and finish creating this board and then save it. Once it's saved, I can go in and share it with my students, but I can also put it up on the smart board because I have it on my laptop. It's accessible on your computer. And so what that does is that actually brings a little bit more inclusiveness to the whole class. Not just those that have that can speak, but those that have the devices and those that are verbal have these exact same boards that they're working with. So it's kind of fun. Let's see.
So there's a question around eye gaze and switch scanning. CoughDrop will work fine with either of those. We have users that are using both. With eye gaze, right now, you can just pull it up in a web browser, put the browser in full screen mode, and then as long as you have an eye tracker that'll do mouse emulation, then it'll work just fine. We're working on a Windows app that will have a little bit of a tighter integration with some of the eye trackers, but in the meantime, we have people that are doing that, and it works great for them. Switch scanning, you can use the scanning that's built into the mobile devices, so iOS has its own scanning system, or there's a component inside of CoughDrop to do scanning as well. So you can hook up a Bluetooth switch, or on a computer, you can just use a keyboard or a keyboard-based switch, and it should work just fine. There's a lot of options for configuration inside of CoughDrop, which is what Scott is showing here. You can change everything from whether it speaks on every button press to whether it jumps back to the home board when you pick a button on a subboard. You can turn on logging here. You can change the background color. You can turn on scanning. You can change how big the header is and what kind of padding there is in between the buttons, spacing. There's different fonts. There's a lot of configuration options that are available here. And the idea is to make it accommodating for whatever an individual situation may be. So if there's things that you need that you don't see, feel free to reach out to us. I always consider CoughDrop a work in progress. So if you're ever using the app and you think, this doesn't make sense to me, or oh, it'd be so much easier if it were like this, there's a support link at the bottom of the home screen that you can use. Just send us a quick message, and we love to hear from people, positive or negative. If you say, this is broken, or if you say, hey, I think it'd be awesome if you did this, 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 and this. All of that feedback and functionality we love to collect, and we love to continue to work on it over time. Like I said at the beginning, I didn't want to build this just to be my great idea. I collaborated with therapists, and we continue to do that over time to talk to experts and talk to parents and find out what the needs are, so that we can continue to improve the app. And it's not just some expert somewhere saying this is the right answer, but it's all of us sort of collaboratively working towards a good solution. There's a question from Alexis about printing, and yes, you can print any of the boards into a PDF. So you can print just the individual board, or you can print a packet that's the board and everything linked to it, and then you can just download it as a PDF. If you print the whole packet, then it'll do page numbers and things, so you can sort of get sort of a pod style communication going on with just the printout. So you can always laminate them, and that way, if you ever have situations where you need an emergency backup, or if you're around water or other situations, you can have the same communication set that you see on a device on physical paper as well.
Yeah. Looking to see if there's more questions. Is there anything specific that you guys wanted to see that we haven't gone over yet? Okay. For those of you that are in an organization, say if you're in a school district or a school, you can also you can also go in and look at the entire district that you're over and be able to keep track of people. So you can keep track of, if you're the manager of the district, you can take a look at all of the different teachers that are on it, as well as all of the different communicators. This one's very small because this is just me, but it makes it a lot easier when teachers move in and out, or the students move to the next grade up. You can actually just move that student to the next teacher up instead of, which is important because hopefully the teacher should be modeling and be able to go in and change the kiddos' boards, and so being able to do that, it, it's one of those things where I probably have to walk you through it a couple times first, but it is available. And if somebody that's watching over the entire school district, it's good to be able to pull those reports of, these are all the students that are using it. This is what they've been using, because you're going to have to go in and talk to the administrators and things occasionally and justify why you're using these things. So this works, as we mentioned. I don't think if I mentioned Chromebooks, but we have a lot of school districts that are starting to move to Chromebook. It works there also. But just the fact that even if the kiddos have it on iPads, just the fact that the family can access it from whatever they have makes it a lot stronger.
So that's it in a nutshell. If you have more questions, feel free to type them. You can always reach out to us after the fact as well. We are always, like I said, trying to find ways to make CoughDrop more useful and more effective. So we really appreciate everybody's time. We appreciate you all coming and listening in on this. We would love to work with anyone who wants to start using CoughDrop or who knows people who want to start using CoughDrop, and we would love to help out any way we can.
Yeah, I'll send out a quick thank you email at the end if you guys need to reach out to me with any questions. If you are a professional, or if you work in say a evaluation center or a lending library, reach out to me about getting copies. We'd be happy to provide those for you too. If you're a parent and we didn't go over to some of the things that you wanted to see, be happy to do a one-on-one or whatever. We do have a couple more of these. If you do have colleagues that you want to see these things, feel free to spread the word. And we appreciate your guys' time. And any more questions, let us know. And if not, we appreciate you joining us this morning or afternoon, wherever you're at. All right. Well, appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody.